I'm Charles Battersby. I'm a game journalist and a theater critic too, and I've written about video games for sites that include Complex, Joystick, and Automaton. And I've written about theater for sites like NewYorkTheater.com, the Off-Broadway Review, and Theater for Nerds. And over the years I've been doing this, I've noticed that there's a big overlap between video games and theater. So with me today is a panel of playwrights, interactive theater designers, and theater critics, and we're going to talk about what it's like to write plays that are inspired by video games, what it's like to use technology and video game rules to create live theater, and what it's like to be a critic covering this kind of nerdy theater. So first up, Gyda.
Hi everyone, I'm Gyda Arber. I am the executive producer of the Gameplay Festival, which is a festival of theater and gaming that we do every July in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, so please come. We're getting ready to gear up for this year. And I also create immersive theatrical game experience things. There's, a little hard to describe, but I guess this is the right crowd for it. And so we started Gameplay in 2009, I think, which came out of the Brick. 3 shows were performing at the Brick. One was a show that I created called Suspicious Package, which I call an iPod noir. And what we did with that is it's for 4 to 6 audience members, no live actors, and every single audience member participates, and we had like a little app that we built, and you become the film noir. So, you'll be the showgirl, and you'll be the detective, and like someone else will be the producer, and you run around Williamsburg, and you pick up little packages, and have little scenes, and the app has, your thoughts running through your head as you do it, and it's very inspired by video games, obviously, but sort of in like a completely live, immersive way. So we had that show at the Brick, and we had 2 other shows. We had a machinima artist doing Romeo and Juliet. He'll do Romeo and Juliet in World of Warcraft while people are playing World of Warcraft. And then the players of World of Warcraft freak out, and they cannot handle people doing a play in World of Warcraft. It's hysterical, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And they jump, and they like shoot fireballs. It's great. So from that, we started this festival, and we've been doing it ever since. And I guess this is going to be our eighth year, I think. Oh my goodness. And there's all sorts of artists who come, and all of their work is inspired by games and gaming. And we've had everything from like very traditional, more LARP experiences to plays include, like about Dungeons and Dragons and what it means to be a D&D player and how that affects your life in positive ways. And it's been a pretty cool experience to see all these great artists come together and how video games inspire theater in this exciting way.
And Matt, can you tell us a little bit about what it's like to be a playwright who doesn't do interactive material but's written a show about that's inspired by gamers and game culture?
Thank you. Yes. I have a big, I'm going to admit up front, I'm going to disgrace myself in front of all of you right now by admitting that I'm not actually a gamer. I don't have anything against it. I just haven't gotten into it. I've been into some other stuff. But like, I write plays, and a big part of contemporary culture, particularly gaming, is something that I have to like pay very close attention to, because in theater, and the theater art form, the leading edge art form of live theater that I'm here to talk to all of you guys, is the principal expressive tool of theater is the human body being used in different ways, moving around the stage. The very best actors act with every part of their body, standing, sitting, dancing, kissing, fighting, interacting in all sorts of ways, but that the most common human pose in contemporary life is to be crouched over a device. Now, I'm not one of those people who has a problem with that, like those things you see floating around Facebook where everyone's like, why are we all doing this nowadays? I don't have a problem with it. I'm just saying that it's difficult to turn into exciting theater. It's difficult to have a bunch of people sitting on a stage hunched over devices and make that be something worth your time, because theater is an increasingly archaic art form. The more easily entertainment can be distributed, the less sense it makes that you have to show up at a particular building at a particular time in order to see a story that you want to see. So that is, I think, playwrights who want to write about contemporary life have to face that challenge head on. Gyda here made me write a play for her theater festival, the Gameplay Festival, and I had to face that head on. One of my first approaches, I wrote a play called Ligature Marks that we did at the Brick Gameplay Festival, and then we toured to several different fringe festivals around the country, and it's since been produced by a few other theater companies. I approached this by starting it as a play about a dysfunctional couple, one of whom was absolutely obsessed with a multiplayer game called Noir, and I came up with an idea that the play would gradually move from these two people in a living room hunched over a laptop to gradually, without even announcing it, sort of becoming their own avatars. And suddenly you realize that they're inside the Noir game. I've learned since there's a real game called Noir. I didn't know that when I was writing the play. It's my bad. L.A. Noir, I guess, is the real name, the game. Anyway, and like the idea was that they go from being real-life humans to being avatars without the play specifically announcing it, and so that before you know it, you're sort of living inside the game, and the human bodies on the stage, in a sense, are avatars in the sense that all performances, in a way, are avatars, a human body taking on a role that it doesn't actually inhabit most of the time. So that's one approach, and I'm really excited about finding a lot more approaches through writing for the live stage in the future. Thank you.
And Jen, what's your experience in reviewing nerdy shows like this?
It's really hard. One of the things that I've come to realize, the more theater that I have seen, and the more theater that I have seen of this particular kind, is that there isn't a really great way to talk about it. And one of the things that I'm trying to do as a critic is to not only find a way that I can, in some way, tell you what my experience was at this show, but when you're dealing with, it's an avatar, but it's an actor, but it's a character, and the character is playing this avatar, but then the avatar goes back to this character, that becomes kind of problematic to talk about. And because the stories can, in fact, be non-linear, it makes it even more interesting because we don't have verbs to cover it. So one of the things that I think is really important with critics as we move on into this type of thing is to perhaps develop a new way of approaching these things, maybe seeing multiple shows, because if you're playing these different characters, it's a different show every time. And also finding a language that we can use to talk about this so that we can look at the art form in a critical way, slot it into where it is falling historically in this grand continuum of, millennia worth of doing theater. And that, I think, is the challenge for critics and reviewers as we go forward, is to find ways to talk about this with one another and to talk about this with the artists so that we can keep the art form fresh.
And aside from being a journalist, I'm a playwright myself. I've written a play called That Cute Radioactive Couple, which is a romantic comedy inspired by post-apocalyptic games. And we did a couple of productions of it. A couple were at Gyda's Gameplay Festival, but we also did some live performances at video game conventions for an audience just of gamers, and both audiences enjoyed the play. So if you make games, you may want to consider telling your story through another medium, because game fans will enjoy live theater. And if you are interested in what we've been doing up here, you can go to theaterfornerds.com, where we have an hour and 10-minute podcast of us covering all these topics in depth. I'll be back here at 10:35 doing a panel on transgender video game characters. And everyone, what do you have coming up in the near future?
So just one more plug, come to the Gameplay Festival in July. It's in Brooklyn, second stop on the L train, so much fun. It's a little theater. I'll be there all the time. You can come and say hi. It's so much fun, so please come. And if you have something, let me know. It's a little late for this year, but we'll get you in for next year. It'll be awesome. You got a plug?
I'm sorry, I apologize. Mine has to be cryptic because, my website is macrogers.org. I've got a big announcement about a science fiction epic for the stage coming on macrogers.org next month. Check it out. I think it's the kind of show you will really tremendously enjoy. But there'll be plenty of information forthcoming about that about mid-May. Thank you.
And if you want to read some of the plays that I've reviewed, that Charles has reviewed, I have an anthology out called Geek Theater. You can get it through Amazon. It's really awesome. He's in it. And if you are further interested in science fiction and games and fantasy, all in the theater, there is the Forum for Science Fiction in the Theater on Facebook, and we regularly post information about upcoming shows.
Thank you.